Hey team, sure glad you came tonight for Team Night. Unbelievable. Wish I were there. I'll be coming back soon from Egypt, but I want to share a few things with you. First of all, Sunday Fun Day, September 23rd. We're going all out, but I need you to help me. I need you to get excited about passing out the cards. When I ask how many passed out cards, I'm looking for you to raise your hand as a leader. Just like every Sunday when we have the Sunday notes and we say, hey, take notes. You as a leader, take notes and people around you will see what you're doing. And that's how we catch that culture. But anyway, back to Sunday Fun Day. All the things that we're having, and it's going to take people doubling up and spending more time, because I'm believing for 1,000 to 1,200 adults on that Sunday. I think it's going to be just phenomenal. And also, ladies, please sign up for Unstoppable. I'm believing for 400 ladies. I don't see any reason in the world why we couldn't have 400 women. And so guys, help me encourage that. Make sure your wives come, buy a table, do everything that you can. I mean, it's just going to be unbelievable. And in fact, we just learned that our missionary, Carol, from Northern Africa, is going to be with us on that Sunday morning as well as Becca. So it's going to be a double edition, and I'm really excited about that. So I really appreciate all that you're doing and all that you're learning tonight. And as you break out in your breakout sessions, do your best to really equip yourself and train, and let's do that with excellence. I've been looking into Mark chapter 6. In fact, I think I'm going to teach this in Egypt, and so I'll let you know when I get back. But in Mark chapter 6, it's really interesting. Jesus has been teaching, and 5,000 men plus women and kids are there, and they've been there all day. Now it's time and hungry, and the disciples come and say, you need to send these people away. And Jesus said, you give them something. Isn't that interesting? And I say that to us as leaders. Jesus is saying to all the people that'll come around and comes to the Father's house, he's saying, you give them something. So to give them something, I mean, we've got to put something in Jesus' hand for that. So as we look at that and think about that, the disciples were there, and there was a little boy that had 5 and 2. Evidently he went by McDonald's and he had 5 little pieces of bread, cracker, and 2 fish. And so the disciples came back and said, hey, we've only got this, a happy meal from this boy. That's all we've got. Isn't it interesting, though, that women and children weren't counted? And the very one that wasn't counted had the resources for the miracle. So that really says to me, no matter who you are as a leader, no matter who you are on this team, if you feel like that you don't have much to offer, you're the one that Jesus can use the most. So they brought it to him. He said, make them sit down in 50s. Jesus is always organized. He's never in a hurry to make a miracle happen. We always want a miracle to happen so quick. But he set them down in order. How long do you think that would take? 5,000 men plus women and children to set them down in companies of 50? It was like a tapestry of 50s across that hillside. And then they brought the bread to him and the fish. Jesus took it in his hands. He lifted it up. He blessed it. And he broke it. And then he gave it to the disciples. And he said, now you give it to them. I don't believe that immediately that it was multiplied and they saw all kinds of baskets. I believe when they walked, they had a little piece of bread and a little piece of fish. I can just imagine them going to the first one, here, take a little bit, don't take too much. And then to the next one, here, take a little bit, don't take, boy, you took a lot of that. But they kept doing that, and it kept being multiplied. And this says something to me that no matter what we have, if we'll put it in the hands of Jesus. So I'm looking at you as part of this team. Wherever you are, if you're out front, if you're in the middle, wherever you are that you're serving on this team TFH, what you have in your hands, I'm not asking you to give something that you don't have. I'm asking you to use the talents and the gifts that you have. Like, for instance, with our small groups, we say we're a church of life groups. We don't just have life groups, we're a church of life groups. That's how we pastor people. So I'm looking to you to lead in that, to give the Lord what you have. You have some time for a 10 to 12 weeks, however this semester is. And we're going to study we're going to do 40 days study about prayer and the key to miracles. So I really encourage you to give the Lord your time. Lead a small group. Make a difference with your life. So he passed out the bread, and they took up 12 baskets left over. You ever thought about why 12 baskets left over? I think because the next miracle that Jesus does is a teaching lesson for the disciples. He says to them, I want you to get in the boat. I want you to go to the other side of the lake. Now all the people began to disperse, and Jesus went up the mountain and prayed. And they put the 12 baskets in the boat with them. 12 baskets. I mean, there were leftovers like, a fish head or a fish bottom or something else left over, and people have been touching it, putting it back in there. So it wouldn't be really something that you'd want to eat, right? But as they started across the lake, they got in a storm. It was a huge storm. And they felt like that they were dying. And Jesus saw them and he started walking towards them. Interesting, Mark says he wasn't walking to them, he was walking past them. And they were afraid. They thought he was a ghost. I thought about that this week, and really, that's a very logical thing. Because remember, in chapter 4, they crossed over and they ran into the demoniac of Gadara, and he had all those demons, and those demons left, ran into the pigs, ran down into this same lake and drowned. So maybe they thought, all those demons are coming back to haunt them. They're in this storm, and that's just a ghost. But I think it's so many times when we get into a storm, we can't recognize Jesus because he doesn't come the way we thought that he would come. But when they cried out, he said, don't fear, and he got in the boat. The scripture says that the storm just ceased. He didn't say, storms be quiet, waves, they just ceased. So that really tells me this was a teaching time that he wanted to have them. He didn't rebuke them for their fear. The only thing we find is that they said that they did not consider the previous miracle. They've got 12 baskets of fish and bread in the boat. And a storm is there. And instead of looking at that and saying, well, Jesus took care of that, he'll take care of us, they didn't consider the previous miracle. So I want to leave that with you. You are where you are now because of the previous miracles. So when another storm comes up in your life or another difficulty, just remember the leftovers from the last miracle and use that to grow in your relationship with him. Let me say this, how proud I am that you're part of this team and how proud I am of our church staff. And I hope before tonight's over that you'll let each of our staff members know how much you really appreciate them. They go above and beyond, above and beyond. One final thing I want to say to you. I've already said it to the elders and the board and to our church staff. But I've been talking a lot about buying the property next door and building a 1,200 seat auditorium because I felt like there was no other venues like that. But in the midst of all of that, the Lord began speaking to me and said, why do you really want to build that? And I really felt like that what he showed me is I wanted to build it because I wanted to prove that I could build it. And I felt like the Lord said to me, here's what I want you to do. I want you to get out of debt with the property that you have presently. Now that doesn't mean that I'm not going to still look towards that property and try to buy that property. But then the Lord said, I want you to fill out the Father's house. Fill it out 3 or 4 times. Do the best you can. And use some of that money that you would have been using to build the building for missions, local missions, and to increase your staff. We need to hire some more pastors. We need to hire some more staff. If we don't, our staff is going to self-implode because they're carrying so much. So I hope you'll hear my heart, and I hope you won't be disappointed. But I really felt like in obedience to the Lord said, I want you to use what you have and multiply that. Whether that's 3 Sunday services and the Saturday night service, I don't know what it is, but it's going to take each of us reaching out and equipping other people to get them on this team. The greatest way to build a team is that you ask when you see somebody, hey, have you thought about serving with us on the parking team? Have you thought about serving with us on the ushers? Ask, ask, ask. That's what I've been doing everywhere I go. I see people, hey, would you like to serve? Where would you like to serve? So do that. So let me pray for you. Hope all these scattered thoughts have meant something to you today. Father, I just pray for those that are there tonight with this team night. I know we've had fun. I know we've had good food. And now we're going to break out in some breakout sessions in a minute after we look at the calendar. And we're going to prepare ourselves for what you want to do. So we just offer ourselves to you. We ask you to bless us. Break us of ourself and our self-sufficiency so that you can flow out through us. Thank you for watching. Love you guys.